Well, hey friends, so nice to see you. I am so glad you guys were excited about the RPJs. I am too. Discord is underway. It's a wonderful chat going on over there. Please feel free to join us there. I will put the link to the Discord group in the description box of this video. My name is Andrea. This is Journals for Breakfast, and this is an RPJ flip through. Today we're going to be looking at Alva's story. This is my Witch RPJ, my role-playing journal, and it's the first one that I started. I will continue with flip throughs about this storyline as it carries on. I will also do flip throughs of Shannon, my high schooler who is playing totally locked in the 80s, 90s throwback high school game. Really fun. But today we're just going to do a deep dive into Alva because my initial video about RPJs on this channel was an overview. And so I ended up editing a lot out. And I'm hoping you'll find some inspiration about getting your RPG started as well. This story stems from Megan Fuentes. I'm putting a photo of her Etsy page here, and the link to her Etsy page is below. So you are welcome to use that link to go over and see what storyline she has that may be of interest to you. She has several. She is also in our Discord group. So if you ever have questions for her, you can reach out to her directly there. And let's get started. So this journal I had in stash, and because I decided to pick a witch as my first role-playing journal character, I thought this one, this kind of magic tree looking into another realm was a great idea. And thank you, Paula, for this kind gift for my birthday this year. I had no idea what I would do with it, and look at this. Okay, the inside cover here, I just made a big fat pocket just to stick stuff into, and I'm really glad that I did. That's been really handy, FYI, if you want to do that. And it's nothing more than a piece of paper glued on 3 sides. I put some washi here, but that's really just for aesthetics. It's just glued down. The glue that I'm using for this, if I want anything to dry with some level of flexibility, then this is what I'm using. You have to be patient. This takes a little time to dry. So what I'll do is like glue these 3 sides down. That's my dog clacking in here. And then I will clamp it into place, like hold it into place with a clamp. And then I'll head out for a little while, go walk the dog, or if I run to the gym or something. And then that way it has time to dry. But it's worth it because it dries with some give and some flexibility. So I use that for that. Whereas like this envelope that I made and then glued down, I just used 2-sided tape. It's really adhesive and you can put it exactly where you want. And I didn't really need any flexibility here. So that's just a tip on that. Let's get on with the fun stuff. The first thing that I decided to do for my character was actually name her. Her page name is, her name page is over here. I spent hours looking up names that meant witchy things to me, like fairy or spiritual or of a spiritual world, names that might mean woodland witch or something like that. It was a fun rabbit hole to fall down, and I just Googled all that stuff over and over, and I came up with Alva Sage Hugo. So we'll talk about her name in a minute. But the next thing that I wanted to do for Alva is figure out where she lived. It was important to me to have a homestead for her that I understood was her home base. And basically, I just picked from my own fantasy life of living in a croft, on the coast of Ireland or the coast of Scotland or something. I mean, that's just sort of my own fantasy world. And so that's what I made for Alva. And I've showed you this map before, but up here is the ocean, and there are cliffs that drop off. And then there's a high glen valley with a little bit of hills here, and then the glen is the valley that she lives in. Here's her house. This is a little croft. There's a fireplace on either end. This would have just a thatched roof and a door here and a door here. A barn for her dairy cow, a hay field for her donkey Duncan, and then she grows oats and wheats and has a vegetable and herb garden, but she always keeps one field at rest, and then these rotate around. There is a small orchard with fruit trees here, but this is actually a forest back here, which is great because it keeps things nice and cool for her in the summer. There is a small mountain range here. These are not gigantic mountains. And from that, a spring pops out and creates a pond here, which allows her to have a mill so she can grind her wheat into flour. The Gladwells are a family that lives just down the glen. They have a big farm, And yeah, so that's sort of what I created. And it just helped me kind of anchor my character in a locale so that when I'm picturing her, I can picture her sitting by the fire or plucking fruit, or maybe she's making sure that Duncan's getting fed. You know what I mean? So I just wanted some ideas about where she was. This map is a little tricky to look at, as you can see. I'm sure your eyes are kind of crossing a little. That has to do with the fact that this is not to scale in any way, shape, or form. And her house is not the size of a wheat field or of a mountain. So I learned very early on that these need to be pretty artistic and interpretive and just have fun with it. You know what I mean? There's that. So that was my first map. I got to do some aging on this envelope. And this stamp that's here, I'll show you, I made with my stamp punch out. Okay. And what it really is a piece of a watercolor that didn't go well. And what I did, actually, I had a few of those lying around, and I made myself a little box of stamps that come from watercolors that weren't very successful. So for whatever reason, I didn't love the overall artwork, but the color scheme, etc., I did like. So I saved the paper and then just punched out a little box of stamps. Alva will be mailing things, but she'll be receiving things as well. So I thought that was a nice thing to have on hand. Okay, next up, are you having fun? I'm having so much fun. And what else is in this pocket? Oh, just some aged paper so that she can write some notes on if she needs them. And then I created a timeline for my Alva, and I also created a family for her. And this timeline was confusing, so I wrote it down on paper. Like, I had to get out a calculator to figure out like when she was born, how old she is now, how old are her sisters, how old are her nieces. That took a little math. I don't know if you have to get that into it. I did, but I've got those notes there because I'll need them down the road. And then also on this page are her spirit animals. Now, I feel like this is where okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. The story itself, The Witch, that you purchase the PDF and print out, and of course you could do the mermaid or the fairy, etc. She will guide you in how to decide what kind of witch you are. There's a quiz that you'll take and you'll fill that through. I've filled out my quiz and figured out which witch I am, which witch. And also, I believe that somewhere in there, or it might have been in the little bonus pack that I bought, you will pick oracle cards. Yeah, you'll pick oracle cards. So I have an oracle deck. It is, I have a few actually, but the one I used for this is the spirit animal. And this is a pocket. Obviously, it's small, pocket size. And it is Colette Baron Reed. And I like this deck because it's very positive. All the things I've ever read in here are very uplifting spirit tokens, totems, etc. So I just went in randomly and pulled 3 cards for Alva. And we came up with Deer Spirit, which is bring a gentle touch, Rhino Spirit, which is overcome any obstacle, and Scarab Beetle Spirit, which is magic works through you. Isn't that interesting? Because it's not like I sought that out. I just thought about Alva and that's what came out. I wrote on the back of the card the information that goes with this card from the book by Colette. These are her sort of totem spirit animals, such as it is. And these were really fun to do. I used ATCs. Are you familiar with artist trading cards? Let's put this back in focus. Artist trading cards are these little cards that are a very specific measurement, which I can't remember off the top of my head. Let's see. Is my ruler clear enough for me here? No, of course not. That's centimeters. Why would it be? Anyway, I won't be able to tell you right now. But anyway, it looks like it's like 3x2. But it's a specific side card, and you can buy them at big box art stores, but the paper is terrible, in my humble opinion. It certainly won't take watercolor. So I actually bought a pack for 99 cents and then used them as a template to cut really nice ones out of watercolor paper. So ATCs, artist trading cards, those are fun in of themselves, but you're going to see a lot of them show up in my journal because they're very useful for different things. In this case, they became the place to house the photograph of the card I pulled from the deck. So these are the cards. And what I did was snap a photo on my phone and then printed it on my little mini Ivy Canon printer. I've showed you guys this in many of my journaling videos. This is one of the greatest journaling investments I've ever made in my journaling life. I use it like mad. So this tiny little printer, you can see it's about the size of a deck of cards, and the film that you buy for it is sticker backed. So you just peel the back off and it sticks onto anything. I do screenshot journaling in my traveler's passport size, and I use the photos that I screenshot and I print out on this. I hope that makes sense. I love that tool. So what I did was just use my camera to take a picture of the card and then trimmed out all the background and then printed it and cut it out. And they're not great photos. They're a little overexposed, right? But that's fine. I kind of liked that they were faded for the book, to be honest with you. And so another little envelope here that's just been aged and stamped up. I have this yin yang rabbit stamp. I think it's pretty cool. And I just tuck those in there. They're sort of reference of who spiritually guided Alva is. And then this little, oops, I've been banging this around so much, I'll have to glue that back in. This is a little fern leaf that I found, some feathers that were in my backyard, a piece of bark, and a scrap of paper. And I just made a little nature collage for our witch. I will say also that Alva and her entire family of witches nature is their core. They are very anchored into the earth, into the soil of the earth. And the type of magic that they do is healing magic. They are often healing animals, people, plants, earth, etc. So just to give you kind of a general about their type of magic. So Alva Sage Hugo, supernatural being, elf warrior, beauty and connection to the supernatural. That's what the word Alva means. Sage, wise one, independent, long life, thoughtful, a profound understanding of the world. So that's what sage means. And then Hugo. And Hugo means deeply connected with mind, body, and spirit, inner strength, and intelligence. And that's their family's surname. So they're all Hugos. This is another piece of that scribble paper we did in 2 videos ago. There's a little tutorial about that. And then I did a couple of pages of just their names. Once I figured out she had a family, I needed to name her family. So there is Alva and her mom, Diana. And then she has 2 sisters. She has, her sisters are Lily and another Diana. Her middle sister is named after their mother. They have a grandmother named Althea. Lily has a daughter named Flora. That's her Alva's niece. Diana, my sister Diana, has got a daughter named Sophie, and let's see, and another Althea named after Gran. And then Hugo is our surname. Our dad is Orion. I think I've got that right. And then we've got some men's names in here because we've got granddad and then we've got brother-in-laws because Diana and Lily have married men. So I had to get some men's names in there. But they're all names that ultimately tie back to purity, beauty, renewal, huntress, moon goddess, let's see, spring, wisdom, intellect, rising in the sky, of the woods, let's see, happy and grounded, of the earth and soil, scholarly. So you kind of get sort of the words I'm going for. So that's how I came up with their names. And then I wrote this little thing about, to know my family, one must understand the significance of our family names. And then I just did a little collage up here. And then on this page, I just made a mess of these. That's funny. Let me throw these around here so you know what they are. That's what happens when you race around like a crazy person, which I've been doing. Okay. I made a little envelope. This came out of a flow paper, excuse me, book. Or actually, this probably came out of a paper source book like you buy at Barnes & Noble for crafting. So I folded up the envelope, did a little stamping, did a little aging. And then one morning when I just didn't have any real writing prowess happening, I wasn't really in the mood to create a storyline or anything. Those paper books that we buy, let me see if I have one right here. Wouldn't that be convenient? Like this is the Flow paper lovers. There's a bunch of these at Barnes & Noble, and they also have the Paper Source paper lovers. Typically, these books will come at some somewhere in there, there'll be a page that's just a bunch of letters. What I've discovered about the letter pages in those books is that the frustrating thing is it's typically one page of the full alphabet, A through Z. Well, most words and most names have two letters in them, right? Even my name, Andrea. Alva has, it starts and ends with A. Sarah has two A's in it. So they don't give you enough letters to actually spell out words, in my experience, very well. Like I got lucky, these letters spelled out Hugo, but see, I couldn't. There was a capital A and a lower class A. I got lucky with that one. But then Sage, I'd already used all the A's. There weren't any A's. So I just cut that out of pretty paper. You get what I'm saying? So I decided to make these little letter collages. So a little piece of aged paper that I then add a little piece of glitter paper and glued a letter onto. And what that allows me to do is just have a brainless little morning of gluing. And then I've got this sack here, this little satchel full of letters. And if I am going to cast a spell that is for a specifically named person or place, I can make that spell even more powerful by adding a letter that represents it into that spell. And I can reuse those letters for multiple spells. So I thought that was a fun little morning project. And then I was able to just tuck those into a little muslin bag and tuck those into her little envelope, and on we go. Now we're down to a page that actually started in a funny way. I haven't been doing this like in front to back order. This was the very first spell that I cast. And I did this by playing the game. So I went to my handout and I pulled the cards. She told me what number of cards to pull. I pulled the cards and then I looked at the corresponding for my witch, the type of witch that I am. This will differ depending on who you're playing, but for the type of witch that I'm playing, you know, diamond, 10 of diamonds means this. A 3 of spades means this. So you have to have this whole chart in front of you, and then you pick out your ingredients based on the cards that you've pulled. And so that's the little spell that I cast. And then I wrote down on this what that information was, so I'll know why I have the ingredients that I have and what the little spell is for. And then another just little envelope that I just painted and stamped and stuck here. And so that's our little spell. And then a little journaling about ingredients and why they matter in our family spells, how we choose them and how they matter. So there's that. And then I have a couple pages that are just ready for journaling. And I just did watercolor and stamps. And I'll show you this stamp. It is this big brick of just sort of scribbly script. You can't make out what it says, which is what I like about it. I don't really want you to make out what it says. I want it to just be the idea of writing without being very specific wording. And I think that does a nice job of that. I think that does that really well. And so I just blonk, blonk, blonk. Because it's not going to make up actual words, you can even offset it and come back in and catch it. It doesn't really matter how it lays out. Does that make sense? You could even do it upside down or sideways. So, but you do need a big ink pad for that, or you need an ink transfer, like something that you can put ink on and then pat it onto that big giant stamp, such as it is. Okay, so those are just some pretty pages. This is another fun morning activity when I really don't have the wherewithal to write a story or think about the characters in particular. I just set up blank canvases for me to work on down the road. Now, you start to see these little mountain ranges. This is because a map story is starting to form here. And you saw my first attempt at a mat. It was really just a watercolor and artwork. It was just a fun thing to paint. So I will show you some map stuff and we'll get to this mess in a minute. This is what I want you to look at now. Isn't that nice? So how I got there was with these two sets of stamps, and we will get these. This is a little mini set that comes with house, castle, octopus, boat, lots of stuff. Look inside. Castle, guard gate, village, guard tower, ship, forest, wheat. There's a like a dragon, an octopus, a treasure chest, all kinds of little things to add to your maps. And let's put this here so you can screenshot that. If you would like to go order these online, I ordered them from the Lord of Maps website. The other one that he has is, I think this is his like original main set, and it is Lord of the Maps for making the world's finest maps, volcanoes, mountains, trees, and more. And so this one has the compass, lakes, mountains running in various directions, kind of down towards you, up away from you, through the center, volcano, kind of a single cluster. These are trees. So you see how handy that is? And this is what I used to create this page. Let's go back into focus there. And I think it looks so cool. And then I watched maybe one of his Instagram posts where he does a great job of linking these up. And I think there's tutorials on his website that you can watch too. I was too impatient. I just went for it. Okay, so here's what I made. Basically this map, and then I started putting some watercolor on it to sort of age it out a little bit. And then I burnt the edges, and then I folded the page over, and then I was starting to not be able to read what was happening. So then I added some pearl. I don't know why. I thought that would like lift the color a bit. And instead what it did, there's something in the metallic of that paint that it started smearing the ink, and this map turned into a disaster in a heartbeat. And I said, you know what? I'm going to turn that into a storyline. So here's what I have decided has happened with the map. Gran has been sending me little notes. Little notes have been showing up here and there in the cottage. One showed up in a flour bag. I was making biscuits and I reached in to get a cup of flour, and this note popped out. One just flew down the fireplace, flew and just landed by my feet. So Gran's been trying to get in touch with me. She is time traveling right now. She is actually in 1909. I'm in current day. I'm in whatever today is in this world. And this little scrap of map showed up with one of these notes as well. And it says the Valley Lake is the start from Gran. So I know something's coming. I don't quite know what. So in my storyline, I went digging around and I knew we had a map somewhere in the cottage, and I found it, and it was this messy thing. And so I wrote my sister Lily and said, do you have a cleansing spell? Because Lily is a naturalist, as is her daughter Flora, who is a herbalist. I knew she would have something that's for cleansing. She's often helping cleanse infections from people, but she also cleanses auras and spaces and that kind of thing. So I knew she'd have something. So Lily says that she definitely has a cleansing spell. The problem is it won't work on paper. That we need our niece Sophia, who is the master academic. In fact, she's at Oxford right now. That's where she lives. We need Sophia to put something together that will make Lily's cleansing spell work on paper. So Sophia sent me a letter saying that she did in fact get in touch. Lily got in touch with her. Aunt Lily got in touch with her, told her what we need, and she sent me the components to add to Lily's spell so that we could turn this messy thing into this. And so that's how we got here, and here's the spell. So the spell I came up with, again, by playing the game. I pulled cards, and I'll tell you something really funny. I pulled random cards, of course, right? I just have a deck of cards. I'm playing the game. I pull whatever, 3 cards. And one of them was the thing that matched up with it was soap, which I thought was crazy because I was making a cleansing spell already. Isn't that wild? The little bead, let me see if I can get this in focus here. Yeah. So the little bead is polymer clay. I made that. I have a little bucket of beads that I made. I needed something red, so I looked up numbers. I haven't had a few red beads that had numbers, and I picked 8 because it is the infinity. It carries on forever, so this should keep this map in good condition for us for a long time. And I used this card, which is actually a drawing of our Gran in around 1970. And then I wrote on the back what the components of this spell were. And this is a combination now of my sister Lily's spell and my niece Sophia's spell. I was to hover it over paper near the other map. And sure enough, the map parts appeared here and are nice and clear and ready to go. And we have a funny joke in the family about this. There's a note that says, look at the state of Gran's map. Will these wizards never learn? And Gran has sent me a little note that says, our family map the boys got a hold of it, and this is what happens. Wizards tend to add and add and add and add, and in time, this is what happens. So I just made a storyline out of really messing up my first map attempt. That's what I'm trying to tell you. So that was really fun. And then this is just some journaling by Alva. She's starting to explain the timeline of having received a couple notes from Gran, that Gran is in 1909. She is on the hunt for our grandfather who disappeared. So that's another storyline. So I did a little journaling about that. But to be honest with you, I put some dates up here. I'm going to get rid of those. I'm going to do some collage work around the frame of this and hide that date. I want these to be undated entries by Alva because I don't think the date's really relevant right now, but I also don't want to be committed to a timeline. And then the other thing I did in this, in the back of this, which I'm not going to show you, are the suits of the cards. So diamond, club, spade, heart. And I wrote down, the chart. If it's 10 and it's a diamond, this is the ingredient. I put those in this book, so I'd always have them with me. And then now this is my little photo album, which I did show you briefly in the other video. Our mom, Diana, and I spoke incorrectly earlier. My sisters are Lily and Althea. Althea is named after our grandmother. Althea has a daughter, Diana, who's named after our mom. So I have a niece, Diana, and a mom, Diana. Lily has a daughter named Flora, and I already have a side story for Flora going. I told you guys in the Discord page that Always Amber Celine has done a cottagecore village theme, and her first storefront, if you will, for you to build is an herbalist, and Flora is who is going to be the herbalist in that story for me. And then this back panel, I just did some like family notes, like let's see. I mentioned that these are photos of the past. This is not the representative age of the girls right now. A little note from Gran, a little note that I wrote about it, and then kind of a family spell, if you will. This is just sort of a spell that is of good health and nature for the whole family. And I did the same thing. It's a little ATC card, but I put a pocket on the front of it. And the pocket was meant to hold a stone, but the stone, so I found this out in the neighborhood. Does anybody know what this is? Is this just a chunk of poured concrete that like rolled off a driveway while it was being formed? It was full of dirt, and so I came home and used the little brush that I used to clean the grout and scrubbed all the dirt out of it and ended up with this little stone that I think is kind of cool. So this pocket fits this stone. The problem is this book doesn't. If I go to try to close the book, it's just way too fat. I'm going to think about that. The other thing I thought that was cool about this stone is it has a hole in it. So I could put a string on that and maybe make it like a bookmark or something. Anyway, just more spell casting. This is another polymer clay bead that I made from my little bucket of handmade beads. I can't tell if that's in focus or not. My glasses make it hard for me to see this close. So anyway, there's that bead, that card, and then some information about the ingredients that I pulled that are sort of our family spell. Little envelope back here. This was a feather that was in my yard. Yeah, so there's just kind of the stuff. Now you can see the tools I've been using here too. I used my typewriter, my vintage typewriter, to type out both Sophie's letter from Oxford. Where did we decide that was? Over here. So I used the typewriter to type this out, and I had to do it like 9 times. No, I'm not kidding, but I had to do it at least twice, maybe 3, and there are still typos in it. I'm not great at using that typewriter yet. But I used the typewriter to do these like photo album pieces that explain a little bit about the girls and about my sisters. And then I cut those pieces out and then glued them down. It was pretty labor intensive, but it was fun. And it was really fun to use my typewriter. And I just like the way that it looks too. It has kind of photo album vibes to me with that typewriter text. So that's really it, you guys. A 30-minute flip through to get you excited about your characters this weekend. I hope this is inspirational. If you have questions about anything that I used, let me know. But I will link Lord of the Maps. I will link Megan Fuentes and anything else that I can think of, the Discord page. Come join us there. That's where we're doing lots of chatting, sharing photos, and etc. And it's already a really fun, active group. So thank you. Have a great weekend. I'll look forward to seeing you guys with an update on Shannon and her 80s high school adventures for the next flip through. Bye.